Ambiguity. For those of you who are or have been flustered that your hives are not in lockstep with the IEBA hives, take solace that the IEBA hives are hardly in lockstep with one another. Those of you who think you are keeping bees, no, you are keeping hives. Don't get attached to your workers and drones. They are ephemeral. Some attachment to your queen is hardly advised, since she is the most essential. Perhaps the reason why we are all frustrated by the persistence of our hives to produce queen cells. Insurance? Nervous energy? Or is there in fact a problem? Hives are our focus. Hives are the real individuals of the honeybee social society. They have personalities. They are predictable, but only to a degree. In line with the theme of the 2020 reformatted Spokane County Interstate Fair, expect the unexpected. After 63 days of comb construction, egg laying, and nectar and pollen gathering, the 12 IEBA hives are looking less and less like one another. After Friday's inspection, 5 hives are now topped with 8-frame Western Supers. 2, declared queenless, have had new queens introduced in corked cages to be released later in the week. 1 hive may be experiencing queen issues. 1 hive had 12 plus queen cells. At least 1 hive continued, now through 9 weeks, to have no queen cups or cells and has been topped with a honey super. This is the hive we all want. Finally, be aware that at 2:43 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, Saturday, 20 June, Spokane experienced the summer solstice. Your hives will notice and react to the shortening of days before you do.
Okay, we're going to open this hive up. We're going to set the top box right there on the telescopic cover so that we can work it. And Jim's going to smoke these bees, see how they're on top. They're fairly gentle, but we have a tremendous amount of flight today. Okay.
How much did
this
this
hive
go?
went up about 3 pounds in weight. And that is one of our smaller ones. Okay, we got a queen cup here. Just so you know, we are seeing a lot of queen cups and queen cells in our hives when we go through them. Look at all this brood right here on the outside frame. What's the other side look like? Pretty much, there's brood there too.
Yeah, this is all brood. Right into here like this.
So we got about a half a frame of brood here. You can set it right here too. Look at frame number 2. Okay, look at there. Brood, she's laying back through, which hatched last week. So we're in good shape here. And what's the other side look like?
After they emerge, you notice it's darker. That cocoon leaves a darker image than, colors the wax a little darker than virgin wax, and this is all.
So this is the frame that we put in to match. If you'll notice, it doesn't have a, it is the one we slid in when we put the feeder upstairs.
That's another half.
Okay, 2 or 1 so far.
Yeah.
So we've got about a half a total frame of brood so far.
We got 1 full frame.
There's a big frame of it.
This is all emerged here.
Got a cup
Queen
here.
cup down here.
It's wet too.
CC then.
See there, it's maybe you can't see it. I'll try to open it up a little bit, but you can see down in there. Look at the larva sitting floating, and you can see where they're putting the royal jelly in. So that's a hot cup.
So one thing about this one, It's in such a way that it's gone down. You may miss it because
Yeah.
it'll
Yeah.
be flush with the.
Gotta
comb
look
around it.
real careful.
Oh boy.
We got some more down here. That's empty. That's empty. The ones that are up on the frames are the ones we're finding that have something in them. And as you can see, we're cutting them out. There's a full frame of brood if you ever seen it.
We're up to 3.
And no cups on that. Whoa, 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 back. What's this? Yep, there we go. Boy, they'll put them anywhere. What's that side look like, Jim? Solid frame of brood all the way around
There's
with
a
a little
queen
bit
cup
of
right
pollen.
in the corner, 2 of them.
Yep. Another good frame of brood.
Oops, down there.
She's laid back through here, all larvae in there. Nothing in there. See how Jim is checking the bottom of the frame with his hive tool? Just kind of roll the back of the bees and they move.
That makes
So you
4.
can see. So we got 4 frames total of brood.
Oh, there she
There
is.
she is.
There
right
she
there.
is, laying her heart out. And you can see she's starting to lose a little bit of her paint. They're picking it off her head a little bit. So keep looking so you know what that queen looks like when the paint's gone. That blue's so easy to see how much eggs and larvae we have in there. Or is it
Not
pretty
much.
empty?
She's
Okay,
just starting.
we'll just call it an empty.
Yeah.
Oh, nice frame of brood.
5.
This queen is doing really, really good. The bottom box looks excellent.
You have to be real careful when you push them up together because the queen's down there.
And let's look at the outside frame. Now the earlier hive we looked at, the outside frame was just packed with honey. This one is not. Remember, it only had a 3-pound gain. The earlier one we looked at had a 5-pound gain.
Half.
Yep. She's got room to lay down here, so we're good there. So my guess is we're not going to switch a frame down because the queen is already downstairs, so we don't need to move her down. We can put the frame we took out back in because there's plenty of room for her to lay on it and them to put honey in it. So we can put that away and then look through the second box. Remember, we've cut cells in this hive. So when you cut cells 1 week, you need to check that hive the next week. And usually once the honey flow gets going pretty good, a lot of times I see them leaving that alone. So now let's look in this second box. Jim's now down on his knees. And we're just gonna lay this up front here. See if one can crawl up my pant leg when I'm not watching. See, they're not doing a lot up here on that, so that's an indicator. Nothing.
Nothing. They're just. Okay,
Oh,
now we've got a little weight.
And now down here is where they're putting their nectar.
Beekeepers prefer to see the center of a frame left open for brood production.
I would like to see that on the outside rather than on the inside. Maybe next week when we look at it and they put more honey in, we could take a deal. That's all honey there with a little bit of pollen. There's queen cells down here. Have a really good pollen flow and the bees are bringing it in really strong. So
A lot of times starting out, they'll fill a cell halfway full of pollen, and then they'll fill the rest of it with honey, and you
Yeah.
think it's all honey, and once you go to extract it, you get surprised.
Fans of raw honey often prefer pollen in the honey.
Yep. Now we got brood here.
These are all eggs over here.
But you can tell why we thought there would be brood there. Notice that the honey is in a circle, which usually tells you the center is brood.
Let's point out some of the things that are there.
Okay, we got larvae right here. We got eggs right here. We got the honey up here coming down around the corner, which is exactly what we would like to see on a top frame, and we got a queen cup at the bottom.
Another queen cup right down here.
Nothing. So we only mark the hive cut cells when we actually have one with larvae in it, okay?
Is there brood on that side?
No. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, there is.
So you gonna call
There's
that a
all
whole frame?
eggs.
It's all eggs, so you got a half a frame there of
We're
brood.
gonna mark this one 20.
So that's now 5 frames of brood?
Yep.
And there's another one that's all drawn out.
Queen cups.
Again, now I don't think we'll have much brood in here because look what's happened. They are pouring the honey in on this side. Look at all the pollen there. Chris, there's a beautiful picture. A little more than we want though.
There's nothing in them I can see.
Next week when we go through this hive, we will probably shift some frames around. But we'll leave it this week the way it is. Because we're only sitting at what, 5 or 6 frames of brood?
5.
5. What was it last week?
5.5.
5.5. Not drawn out, but they're working it serious.
Lots of pollen.
Yeah, lots of pollen. Wow. The deal with the pollen is the pollen starts coming out early in the morning, and with the warm temperatures at night, they're having an opportunity to really
Still
get
at
out.
11 frames.
They're getting an opportunity to get out and get the pollen early in the morning. Not ready for a honey super, but it's a little concerning that she's only got 5 frames of brood, but she seems to be laying good and stuff, so
There's a lot of bees in there.
We're calling it 11 frames compared to the one before, which was 14.
this is one of our high performers. Last week, 2 weeks ago, we had 8 frames of brood, 12 frames of bees. Last week we had 6 frames of brood, which we would expect because we had a massive hatch out. Went up to 14 frames of bees. Today we check it, she's got 12 frames of brood. We have 8 solid frames of brood in the bottom box with the queen, and we have 4 frames of brood total in the upper box because there's partials on a couple of those frames. And we added a super on this because if you think about it, she's got less than 2 frames to draw out. And we moved those in a position in the second box so she would draw them. There's a little bit of brood on each one of them, but it's not very much. So she's got a lot of room there to draw those out. And we'll put the honey super on so they stop putting honey in the bottom box. Our weight gain here was 78 pounds last week, 85 this week, so a 7-pound gain in weight. That's pretty significant. So if you think about a full deep frame full of honey is 7 pounds. And we have a little bit of honey on every frame. This hive has done really well. Probably the reason why this hive has more brood than the earlier hives we looked at is when we put the second box on this, it was drawn comb, okay? So instead of the bees spending their time making new comb, using up a gallon of honey to make every comb, every pound of wax, they were able to focus on storing honey in the second box, and they were able to expand the brood nest rapidly because the queen didn't have to wait for them to lay brood. Put an 8-frame super on here with all foundation, okay? Now, I pulled them tight together and spaced them into the middle. The bees are gonna pop up in the middle and start drawing it out. As they draw that out, what we'll do is each inspection we'll check this. We'll start rotating the frames that are drawn out to the outside, the undrawn frames to the inside. And we will slowly start to space the super apart, the frames like this, so that they have more room to draw those frames out. And I don't usually wait until they cap them to move them to the outside. I usually, as soon as I see they're filling up pretty good with nectar and they haven't started capping, I'll move them to the outside so that when I space them, they'll have plenty of room. Normally with drawn comb, we would only have 7 frames in this second box, or this super. But because we have all foundation and we want them to draw it straight up and down, we push it together. There might be a little burr comb on the side, you just cut it out and don't worry about it. She jumped off the comb. Donnie grabbed her. She jumped off his hand.
Jumping everywhere.
Between Steve and Donnie, they're chasing this.
I certainly got the play-by-play. Now if I got the play.
Did you
Sorry.
get the other comments?
That's all.
My guess is that you take a little more time on these hives than you typically do. So you have a chance to see some of that. Normally you're just trying to plow through them, you know?
Well, normally the boys are working them and I'm watching them and talking to them and telling them, walking them through things. And so I'm looking to see things, but on these hives here, I really take my time to look at every cell in the frame. And